It doesn't matter if you are conservative or if you are liberal. You are actively right now being set up to worship the Antichrist. Welcome back to the 511 show, and the guy you're seeing on screen right now is the president of Syria, Ahmad al-Shara is the guy's name. He is the former al-Qaeda member who basically his team led a siege in Syria about a calendar year ago. It's almost been a full calendar year since Syria fell. So this guy has been in charge for nearly a full calendar year at this point, and he's been going around over the course of the last year basically playing the diplomat and the new face of the quote-unquote new Syria, right? And before I get too deep into this guy, I want to talk about some of the other things that happened at this event that took place over the weekend called Doha, I believe is the name, the Doha Forum. This was a public forum that took place in Qatar, and this was supposedly a global platform for dialogue, bringing people together, world leaders, critical challenges, all of this other hoo-hockey, right? But what made this event interesting was the fact that this was not just a political event for conservatives or for liberals or for even people who are pro-anti-Israel. No matter where you lie, there was a lot of people a part of this particular forum. And this is kind of the danger, what's happening here. Because as I said a while back ago, and I want you guys to understand this as I say it, about a year or so ago, I made the public declaration that if you are looking at the events that are happening in this world right now from a political lens and not a biblical lens, you will not be prepared for what comes next. Period. I don't care. There are a lot of people out there who are hitching their wagons on this Christian nationalism angle. There's people out there who are hitching their wagon to the MAGA movement. There are people out there that are hitching their wagon to full-blown communism, socialism, anti-authoritarian, anti-Trump, like all this stuff, right? And these people only have the tunnel vision of looking at the world through their extreme political lens, and they don't actually see what's happening here. Because essentially what's going on is that both the political right and the political left are being pulled together, and they're being pulled together under a shared cause. Say that this is crazy all you want, but the far left and the far right will come together in the very near future, because they will both realize soon that they share a common enemy, the nation of Israel. So let's start here. Tucker Carlson, who we've talked about in a few episodes here on this show, he was at Qatar during this one. He hosted a couple of panels, and Tucker has been long accused of being a Qatari agent, someone who has taken money from Qatar in order to essentially sow division amongst the nation of Israel and the world, primarily with the Christian right as well. And I've heard these rumors saying that he's taking money from Qatar. I didn't put much into him at the time. I think this whole conference kind of cemented that Tucker works for Qatar. And it makes sense now, right? Because Qatar is a nation that is not a friend of Israel whatsoever. During this whole conference, they even publicly stated that they do not support any kind of ceasefire or peace deal until Israel completely surrenders all of the Gaza to Palestine, quote unquote, right? And that's just simply not going to happen. And they know this because they want to keep the war of Israel going. And Tucker has been on a tear over the last couple of years, but his target has been aggressively the nation of Israel. And even more recently, he's gone after Christians who support the nation of Israel. And all of his content has been rallied around Israel, about how Israel is bad, how Israel is not our ally. And some of the recent videos that he's done, he's even gone as far to defend Islam. He's offended Sharia law and the Shahada and all of these Islamic beliefs. But when you understand here that, yeah, he's taking money from Islamic nations to speak freely and kindly about Islam and Muslim nations while condemning with all hatred and disdain Israel. Here's a quick little clip here. Apparently, Tucker is going to move to Qatar in the near future. I mean, Tucker claims to be an Episcopalian, if I'm not mistaken. He claims that he's a Christian. He's beat his chest over the last few weeks about the fact that he hates Christian Zionists because they go against his Christian beliefs. But in all honesty, I could see Tucker converting to Islam in the near future, somewhere in the next few years. This is what he had to say during this whole event.
Last question. I've been personally, not to make it about me, but I have been criticized as being a tool of Qatar. And I just want to say what you already know, which is I've never taken anything from your country and don't plan to.
Now, here's the problem with this. Because there was another guy from Qatar, representing Qatar, who already mentioned that he gave Tucker Carlson a lot of money to start his media empire when he got fired from Fox News a couple of years ago. So Tucker's current setup has to do quite literally with a lot of money that comes from Qatar. Now, he's playing semantics here by saying that, well, I've never accepted anything from the Qatari government. When you know how these Middle Eastern nations actually work, nations like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, stuff like that, it's a lot the same way with China. Everyone in some shape, way, or form is associated with the government of the nation. It may be a separate company that you took money from, but that money goes from the public fund of the nation itself. So it's literally a semantics game, but Tucker has basically been exposed for having his Qatari influence not only drive his content, but let's be honest, they kind of paid for it. So it makes a little bit more sense here. But let's finish up this clip.
I am, however, tomorrow buying a place in Qatar. Both because I am
pay a high check.
In Doha, yeah. And I'm doing that because I like the city. I think it's beautiful. But also to make the statement that I'm an American and a free man. And I'll be wherever I want to be.
Interesting. This is the same man who, for months, has been rallying around this narrative that anyone who has dual citizenship should not only be not allowed to serve in American politics, some people have even gone as far as to say they shouldn't even be allowed in the country if you pledge your allegiance to another nation. And dual citizenship was one of the big sticking points that Tucker's been making for several months. Now, of course, when he was making that point, who was he focusing on? The nation of Israel, right? Because all bad things come from the nation of Israel. But now all of a sudden, Tucker is buying property in Qatar, saying that he's going to do whatever he wants. So the guy who's taking money from Qatar to essentially boost his media empire is now going to move there, and he wants you to believe somehow that, oh, he's not an agent of Qatar. He's not selling out to the Qataris. And apparently Tucker's very, very offended by the notion, I should say, that he's a turncoat. This is an interview shortly afterward where Tucker took great offense to be calling a sellout.
Well, I like it here a lot. Yeah, I like it.
You have been...
By the way, I'm an American. I can go wherever I want and speak to anyone I want to because I'm a free man. That's the promise of my country.
And you've done that so far by going to Qatar and speaking to the Prime Minister of Iran. Yeah. So again, who knows why Tucker has this newfound hatred of Israel and the Jews, right? Who could be funding that hatred, behind closed doors? Because when I think of allies of Israel and the Jews, I think of Qatar and Iran.
And some are seeking to change that and to put our population into mental bondage, and I'm not participating in that.
And when you've questioned AIPAC and you've questioned things, are you facing a consequence and a backlash now day to day?
I have a right to say what I think. I'm an American citizen, period. Well, I like it.
So Tucker is actually not happy with the fact that people are calling him out for his blatant hypocrisy. Now, again, I've called Tucker an agent of Satan on this show a couple of times now, and just like the Candace Owenses, just like, the Stu Peters, the Jake Shields, and all these other hack frauds, these people, this is the end game of what's happening here, primarily with the American right. Satan is trying to divide Christians to turn against the nation of Israel, which is why you see so many people ramping up the teachings of replacement theology, covenant theology, this whole idea that the Israel that in the world today isn't the real Israel of the Bible. They have no connection to the Bible. We shouldn't support them under any circumstances whatsoever. All of these beliefs are being purposely implemented in the church to get Christians to turn against the nation of Israel, because Satan knows if he can get America to turn against Israel, Israel will be left without any major political military allies in the world, which means they're essentially a sitting duck. I'm going to be honest with you. This very may happen somewhere in the next, I would say, 9 months. And I'm not joking when I say that. The United States of America could very well turn against Israel in the next 9 months, because when you look at what happens in the end times, remember, the tribulation begins with the Antichrist signing a peace covenant with the nation of Israel, which means that Israel must be in such a state of distress before that point that literally the only person who can sign that deal with them is the Antichrist. Now, go ahead just real quick. There's other people who attended this event here as well. Hillary Clinton was over there over the weekend. Donald Trump Jr. was also there as well. So again, if you think that what's happening here is a political game where it's just the left versus the right, progressives versus conservatives, right? Communists versus, patriots and all this, you're completely blind to what's actually happening in the world right now. But I want to get back to a point that I just made. Things have to get so bad in the world that Israel's only ally could very well be the Antichrist. So who is the Antichrist? I hate to break this to you, but it's not Donald Trump, it's not Elon Musk, it's not Mr. Beast, and it's not Barack Obama. The Antichrist is given a very specific location that he comes from in the book of Daniel, primarily Daniel 11, as the king of the north, which is the head of a Syrian nation. As I mentioned at the very beginning of this show, the guy who currently runs Syria at the moment is a literal former member of al-Qaeda. And there's legitimate questions about whether he actually still has ties to al-Qaeda and ISIS to this day. Syria has been slaughtering dissidents for the last calendar year. Many Christians and many non-Christians have been slaughtered in Syria because they have opposed the new Islamic regime in that nation. But people don't really talk about what's happening in Syria, because who cares if a bunch of dead Christians get killed over there by Muslims, right? They don't care about that. No, apparently their focus is the child-seeking missiles of Israel that only seem to blow up women and children. That seems to be the only thing in the Middle East anyone's truly concerned about. Well, guess who else made an appearance at this event over the weekend? The current president of Syria, who may or may not be the biblical Antichrist. We'll talk about that on another time, but I want to talk about what he says here, because again, why are all these people coming together in unison with this Islamic regime? Because all roads lead back to Israel.
As you know, you have a past of being a terrorist. I mean, you worked for al-Qaeda. What do you say to people in this room, in foreign capitals, about where your heart and your mind and your allegiance is now? We see that in parts of Syria, not only, the T word, but also the Islamic Caliphate word. Okay, there's no Islamic Caliphate in Syria. Women seem to be fairly liberated in quite a lot of the areas. Where do you see your history and how you deal with this country going forward in terms of the rights of women? What would you say to maybe some guests sitting in this room who have yet to fully empower, and some who absolutely deny women's rights?
That was a very long-winded question just to say, hey, you're a former member of al-Qaeda, people are still dying in your country, what about women's rights? You could have summed that up in a much quicker way, but here's his response, which I find interesting.
I think that the question has a lot of issues in it and contradictions, but still I will try to answer the question. saying that I was a terrorist and judging me as a terrorist is politicized. You know that there are many politicized opinions today. Judging on people as terrorists need to be proven, because what is the definition of terrorism or of a terrorist? It's been 25 years of us hearing this word in the world, but there is a lot of confusion in understanding the word terrorist. Terrorists, in my opinion, are those that kill innocent people, children and women, and that use illegitimate means to harm people. If we try to extrapolate this description on several countries in the world, we find that the number of victims in Gaza, 60,000 people, most of them are innocent.
So what is he saying here? He's basically saying, well, I wasn't a terrorist because I was in al-Qaeda and I literally killed and beheaded people. Israel is the terrorist because they're killing children and women. And people applaud. Now, of course, this is in Qatar, so of course they're going to applaud. Muslim country, shocker, right? But think about all the people on the political left and the political right who would also applaud that statement, who are agreeing with a guy who is a known al-Qaeda terrorist. Again, this isn't one of those like gray areas. Was he really he had a $10 million bounty on his head up until like the last calendar year because of his associations with known terrorist organizations. But what he's doing now is that he's basically put on a suit and he says, well, am I really a terrorist or is Israel the terrorist? And the people who hate and despise Israel in their minds, which are both on the left and in the right, the people who hate and despise Israel, they're going to agree with him. They were probably one of the ones clapping at that statement. I want you guys to understand what is happening here. The left and the right is one day going to merge together. They're going to come together because whether you're talking about your Nick Fuenteses or your Hassan Pikers, you're going to realize that both of them share a common enemy. Even though they're woefully opposed on all these other issues, their common enemy is the nation of Israel. And if they get to a point where, I don't know, they just so happen to believe that Israel is a big enough threat in the world that, hey, we need to temporarily put our differences aside to turn our hostility towards the nation of Israel, that would be very, very interesting to see the world come together like that. What do you think?
The Syrian regime during or along 14 years has killed more than 1 million persons in Syria, and until now you have 250,000 disappeared persons with their destinies unknown or their fate unknown. We have liberated all prisons, but we still do not know anything about these people. And this person is not called a terrorist, or this regime is not called a terrorist. We saw wars in Afghanistan, in Iraq. All of those that were killed were innocents. And it is the killers that describe others as terrorists.
So what is he saying there? He's talking about the United States and the Western nations. And again, this is going to play up very, very well to people who already hate Israel, who already see Israel as the enemy. And on top of that, they already hate the Western nations. They already think that America has fallen. They already think that America is a bad nation. They already think nations like the UK and France and Germany, all these other Western nations, are oppressors that are oppressing all these poor, innocent, as he says, brown countries. This is how it begins. So I want you guys to understand this. Many people have this false notion that the Antichrist is going to come on the scene. He's going to be this super popular celebrity, and he's just going to be so overwhelmingly popular. Everyone's going to love him. Everyone is going to adore him, and they're just going to come and immediately worship him as God. That's not what the Bible says. The Bible says that the spirit of Antichrist has been in work for over 2,000 years. The spirit of Antichrist has been in work long before the literal Antichrist will be revealed. So what does that mean? When the Antichrist is revealed and he does come on the scene, it's not going to be that he's so ridiculously popular that everyone's going to love him and worship him as God. It's that in their hearts, they're already going to be completely and fully aligned with everything that is on the Antichrist agenda. He's going to fan the flames of the world. He's going to point the world to the real enemy. And when that day actually comes, they're going to be so convinced that that his enemies are the world's enemies. They're going to follow him into battle. They will worship him as God, and they will blaspheme the Most High as a result. And why is that? Because in their minds, these are the people who already hate God. They already hate Christians. They already hate Jews. They already hate Israel. They already hate America. They already hate all of these things. So when a leader rises up in the world who hates the exact same things that they hate, they're going to start looking at that guy as like, oh, no, he makes a lot of good points over there. And I really like his jib. That's how you end up following the Antichrist. And this is what's happening right now in our world. You guys need to pay attention to what's really going on. There's a lot of people distracted by, just completely pointless nonsense that's going on about, what Trump tweeted today, or what he said about Colombian drug cartels, or what Elon Musk is doing here, and all this other stuff. And it's like the big picture right now is happening in front of everyone. And most of the world is blind to what is happening. It's time to wake up, because this whole thing can jump off. I will say this. 2026 is going to be a game-changing year for the entire world. Not just one nation, all nations. It will be an absolute game-changing year. If you thought 2020 was a game-changing year, this is going to be a game-changing year on steroids. And if you are not ready and prepared for what comes next, you are going to be left behind, and you are going to be left at the mercy of the entities that you have been denying your entire life. The chickens are coming home to roost, and it's time to wake up. Let me know what you guys think about this whole situation here. Let me know what you think about Tucker, Don Jr., Hillary Clinton, and this guy, who may or may not be the biblical Antichrist that we see in the future. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Adios, goodbye, and good night.